Well, hello again. This is our second try at live question and answers, and hopefully we'll actually have some reasonable streaming internet and we can keep it going. We tried previously, but we lost it. It's Saturday afternoon now. It was a bit late, about 6 o'clock, and I think the demand on the internet services was so high it was using it up. Anyway, we'll see how we go. So this coming week, a few things happening. We're launching the start of the 2022 Golden Globe race. We've got such a huge response from sailors wanting to actually do it that they want to know what the plans are, so we're just announcing the notice of race and application forms will be ready, and there's something like about 70 people right now that are saying they're interested in entering the event. We'll just have to wait and see. So as part of that also tomorrow we'll do a live session on Robin Davies' boat. Now Robin had actually entered this Golden Globe race. He's done 3 previous solo circumnavigations. One, he lost his mast halfway between Australia and Cape Horn, did the rest of the voyage under jury rig to the Falklands and so on, and carried on. So he's got some great stories, and he was really gutted when he couldn't make he missed it by literally about 2 months. He's just arrived in Les Sables d'Olonne now. He's been refitting his boat in England. So he'll be on the marina, and we're going to go down and see him, and we're going to talk about his boat, his plans. He's our #1 entry for 2022. He's signing on then, and we'll talk about his boat. And between us, because he's got a lot of experience, a lot more than me, we'll talk about the current range of boats and the skippers and the equipment that they've chosen and all sorts of things. So I got no idea what direction it'll go, but it could be quite interesting. So that'll be about 2 o'clock French time tomorrow on Sunday. So we'll see how that goes. In the meantime, we've got good news. Philippe Peche popped up. You might have noticed he's not been on some of the contacts. He's been off the air for 4 days. We were out looking for him, sending messages everywhere. Hey, we weren't too worried because he's been sailing really well. Sailing very well, sort of 6-7 knots, keeping up with Jean-Luc. Well, not quite, but he's got no wind vane. So anyway, we're happy to see everything's rolling. He's bound for Cape Town, and then we'll see what happens after that. Yeah, let's go straight into the questions. So we've got Elise Shute was asking about the photos and the videos that we picked up from entrance at the Canaries film drop at Marina Rubicon. Basically, that's all been sent to their managers. Their managers are now processing that, developing the films and then digitising it. And as soon as they've got that, they'll send it back to us. They're a bit slow, some of them. We don't have many yet. Some of Susie's pictures have come up. You might have seen that. That's the 35mm pictures. She didn't shoot any Super 8 footage. Philippe Peche shot about 5 rolls. Mark Slatch shot a few, so we'll hopefully get that in the next week or so, and we'll be able to show you some of the things that happened. Dem Edwer asked a question about collecting water. How do they do it, and what's it been like? Generally, for whatever reason, the entrants didn't catch as much water as they thought going through the doldrums. Some of them are quite low. Well, when I say quite low, they hope to be topped up. If we look at Loic, for instance, he's down to 150 litres. There's still plenty of water, but he's got a long way to go. And he's got some other issues on the boat as well with his aerial and HF radio. It's not working properly, and a few other little things. And he's saying the water may swing the balance on whether he goes to Cape Town or not. So how do they... So in other words, if he doesn't catch any water now, he may be tempted to go to Cape Town to top up and sort out the other issues. A big decision because he'd go to Chichester class, so we'll see how that develops. How do they catch it? They're doing different things, If you look at Susie's hard dodger, she's got gutters all the way around and a pipe underneath, and that goes straight into her tank. Not that big an area, but if there's a big downpour, every bit counts. Others will be using, well, what I used to do is you just drop your main halyard a little bit. So if here is the booms coming to you and me, normally the main sail is like that. If you drop your main halyard a little bit, it creates a sag, so you get a pocket by the boom. Then you pull your topping lift up a bit, okay, so the boom's now up at an angle. The water hits the main, comes roaring down to the gooseneck, and you put a bucket there, and in fact you can get too much water real fast. The other one I've done in cruising boats is you do the same bucket effect, but you actually have a hole in the mainsail with a skin fitting you put in and a pipe. Now, if you do that in a downpour, you can get hundreds of gallons if it's a big one. And so they'll be doing different things, to collect water. Another question further down, another guy asked, I'll just answer it now. is it going to be harder to get water in the Southern Ocean because of all the salt water flying around? Yes, it is. It's harder in the Southern Ocean. It's rougher. You do have that residual salt, and you don't get the tropical downpours. You get sort of rain in the squalls, but there is a lot of salt water running around. Nonetheless, if you look at the experience of Sue Haley, you know, Robin basically caught his water as he went. So personally, I'm not too worried. I don't think any of the entrants should be. They've probably got tinned fruit with juice in it, and they've got you know, other things as well. They've got other fluids on board, so they should be right. But anyway, we'll see how the story evolves. Marcel Shute was asking, do you need gloves in the Southern Ocean? Well, my opinion is very much so you do. Yes, definitely. It's going to be really cold. It's hard to work your hands if they're cold. You know, they just clam up. I've had some situations, I've been saying to open zips, I've had to put my palms together and try and pull the zips down like that. They just get really hard to use. The other thing is that you can absorb a lot of water into your skin, you know, and I used to get this even wearing gloves. If your gloves weren't waterproof sort of thing, and that's hard to achieve with a working sailing glove and make it waterproof and make it breathe, you get like wrinkled skin as if you're in the bath for too long, and then it actually, the skin gets soft and it can actually flake off. And I've mentioned this before. If you look at my documentary called McIntyre Knockdown, which is on YouTube, you'll see partway through where I show you on the camera, you know, the skin just flaking off my fingers. It was a real problem in the, that was in the second leg from Cape Town to Australia. And I solved it in the end by using silicone cream to put on my hands to stop it absorbing water. It's very hard to get good sailing gloves for cold temperatures and a lot of salt water. In the end, sometimes the best thing is to just use woolen gloves and put dishwashing gloves over the top of it, you know, the plastic ones, and keep replacing them because they're soft and flexible and they keep your hands dry. Some of them will use Gore-Tex like snow gloves, things like that. Some of the proprietary brand names like Musto and other big brand companies will they make really good sailing gloves, you know. So, but it's a real battle to find the right combination, and there's no perfect set. That's what I've always found. And of course, Mark Slats has forgotten his, so he's got no gloves. He's going to have to make it. You've seen all the comments probably about what he can try and do. Use socks and plastic bags and so on. So I've got one here from Richard Lear. As they get further south, do you think they'll be wearing their life jackets with a PLB more often? It's impossible to say. It's a very personal thing, and again, we have all the safety gear on the boats. That's all checked, and lots of different choices of different types of personal safety gear. And as you know, if you disconnect from the boat anywhere in any ocean as a solo sailor, you're probably dead. You know, no one's going to come and get you. Each sailor will make their own decisions when and how they use their own personal kit. Obviously, in the Southern Ocean, when it's getting tough, you would be wearing your safety harness clipped on more often than you would maybe in the tropics up here. But it's a personal choice. PLBs, you know, again, it's up to them. I got no idea. Probably not a lot of the time. That's the quick answer. Vivian Ogden was wondering how a water generator works. Pretty simple. You know how a propeller pushes a boat with an outboard motor and stuff? Well, if you imagine no engine, but you put the prop in the water, as the boat's going through the water, the propeller will turn, and that's through a set of linkages. It will then turn an alternator, which creates power. So the principle is pretty simple. There's different ways to apply that, and there's two main types that the entrants are using, those that have fitted them. One is called a What See, and you might have seen the big white sort of dagger board off their transom, and at the bottom of that there's a little rotating propeller. And the other one's some other brand, I don't know what the brand is, but it's basically a propeller with looks like the generators behind the propeller on a pole, and it's permanently bolted on the back of the transom, and that pole pivots up and down to go in the water. Both the same principle of the turning prop. The What See, they're on a sliding bracket. It looks like it's easy to slide them up and put them down below, which they'll have to do in the Southern Ocean. Those units will not survive the whole way through the Southern Ocean on the back of the boat. No question. Right? If they don't get off the transom in a big blow, they're going to lose them. Something will smash, something will break. Susie's already broken a propeller, and she's got no idea why, because she doesn't think she hit anything. And the other ones, those other black ones, Istvan's got one, and Tapio's got one. They're the weirdest looking mount to me, and again, very exposed in the Southern Ocean for knockdowns and big breaking seas off the back. Tapio's already had problems with his in terms of the mounting system. There's some mechanical fittings that are a problem, and this is only the Atlantic, and they don't look as if they're very easy to get off the transom. So I'm not sure what's going on there. So the principle's simple, but whether they can keep them working all the way, we'll have to wait and see. No idea. So the next one, Clive Wales was asking about Goose Barnacles. I'd mentioned previously, talking to Susie, about the Goose Barnacles she's got on her rudder. Now a Goose Barnacle, you have your boat all anti-fouled, and they just come, they're in the ocean everywhere, they come and they hook on and they form a little shell, just like a little cockle. But eventually that shell gets bigger and bigger, and it can get as big as the top of your thumb, and they connect, they have a big juicy sort of meaty tube onto the hull. So if here it is, you have this meaty tube and the shell is at the bottom, and they're filter feeders, and they just go boom, boom, boom. So you imagine now like 20, 30 of these little fingers with little shells on the end. The drag is phenomenal, and it's unreal. They stick like you wouldn't believe, and they come from nowhere. They just grow on your anti-fouling. So it's a problem, and they do create a lot of drag and turbulence. I'm surprised well, I'm not surprised. I've always had them on boats. You know, you can't get rid of them. You got to go over the side and physically scrape them off. Easier to do in the Atlantic than the Southern Ocean, and so Susie's keen to do it. She might have already done it. She's had another quiet period there for a day since then. You got to jump over the side and scrape them off. And other ones, you know, Istvan's problem is he's got a trade wind 35. The boat sits in the water really nicely. You have your anti-fouling there, but it's got like a swept back stern. And the beauty of that is that once you start moving, that swept back stern, little transom, it gives you extra waterline, because as soon as the boat's moving this way, the waterline flows up on the hull and runs off the transom. So you get free waterline length, which makes you go faster. The problem is you don't usually anti-foul that bit. So he's got all Goose Barnacles growing on the hull that sort of angles up. When you see it sitting on a mooring, that bit there's got all Goose Barnacles. And that, again, very hard to get to. He'll have to get in the water and try and scrape them off. So, yeah, Goose Barnacles, bit of a problem. Okay, what's the next one? Elaine Greenwood. Oh, what's the latest on the 44 South lower limit? Okay, we have decided to lift that lower limit up to 42 degrees south. It's not official yet. We've made the decision. We'll do the official statement, or write up the official statement in the next day or two, and announce that on Monday. So all of the entrants will be told. We will probably start that a little bit further to the east of the Cape of Good Hope, because there is this thing called the Agulhas Current, which I explained this morning to everyone on the briefing, you know, weather briefing and so on live. And we want to allow plenty of room if an entrant decides they want to go down below that current. So it'll probably start just to the east of Cape of Good Hope, and it'll lift to 42. Why are we doing that? Because the extreme weather is below that, and the further you get away from that extreme weather, usually it's a bit better waves and a bit more subtle. And so it's a safety reason. It's a little bit of a safety mitigation process. So, so that will happen officially in the next 48 hours. The other thing is of interest in that issue, we're just issuing the first navigational warning to all the entrants. There is a very intense current eddy just to the west of the Cape of Good Hope. It's right in line with Jean-Luc at the moment. He's going to sail straight through it if we don't tell him about it, possibly. And at the time he's there, there's going to be some big southwesterly winds. So he'll have wind against tide, and the current could be running at 4 to 5 knots. So we discussed that this morning, and we've decided to issue a navigational hazard warning via the satellite texting unit. So Jean-Luc will get that in the next few hours, warning him where this current box is. It's a box about 150 miles square, and telling him that, he will probably try and avoid that particular area. It's going around clockwise, and it's quite nasty. You can see it on Windy TY on the tracker map. If you go to current after the wind, you'll see what I'm talking about there. So that's a safety consideration. Pat Lawless, VMG, what is it? This is a tricky one, but I'll try and explain it in layman's terms. And it relates to when we say VMG on the leaderboard, you know, on the tracking unit. And when boats have been sailing, they might sail 120 miles in a day, but their distance made good, their VMG might only be 80 miles. Now what it is, if you say here's a mark, no, we'll put it down the bottom like Cape Town, you want to get to that point there. And if the boat is here, right? If you sail a course directly towards that mark, like that, direct, and the boat's sailing at 5 knots, then your VMG, that's your vector made good, is directly towards the mark. So every 5 miles you go that way, you've got 5 miles made good, so you know, towards the mark. So your VMG is going to be 5 knots. You know, your vector made good is direct. If you're tacking off and you've got to go this way, you know, like at 5 knots or something, it's measuring, the vector made good is the distance that you've made with the boat towards this mark. And you can see, because you might be sailing 5 or 6 miles that way, and 5 or 6 knots that way, but you've only been making about sort of 3 knots towards the mark. So your VMG is only 3 knots, even though the boat's sailing at 6 knots through the water. So it measures it direct to that point. So that's a simplistic term. If you Google that, just Google VMG, what is it? You'll get a very good explanation. They've got diagrams on YouTube and pictures on Google, all that sort of stuff on how it actually works. So it's a simple principle, or general principle, I should say. Herman Campora explained the heating systems on board. I've never asked every entrant whether they've got heaters. I think over half of them have, and some are using gas heaters. Some are putting a clay cooking, like a flower pot. You can just use a flower pot. If you know, clay flower pot, drill some holes in it and put it on the burner of your stove. That'll heat up and generate the heat in the cabin. If you put a little electric fan beside it, you can blow the heat through past the pot as well. So that's one way they'll do it on the stove. Others have got kerosene heaters, like a kerosene primus burner as a heater. I'm not sure whether anyone's got gas. I think Ari was talking about gas, but I've got a picture here. Interestingly, what did Robin Knox-Johnson use in the original race? This is in his cabin. He's got a work vise here. I don't know whether you can see that. It's just a normal vise on his saloon table there. But in the vise, he has a bracket, and this is his kerosene heater. It's like a Tilly Primus pressure lamp, but this is the reflector. On the other side is the burner. So you light it with metho, you preheat it, then you pump the pump here, and it catches like a Tilly pressure lamp, but it's actually a kerosene heater, and it's in a special stand on his vise, so he can rotate it around as well. So he was using kerosene. So they've got a few different options. Personally, I'm not a big fan of heaters on yachts. Sailed to Antarctica many times, and in the end, it's better to keep the boat cold inside, so you don't get this condensation and back again and so on. And I just wear my insulation. I have really good. I used to use Musto clothing systems, so a 3-layer system, all the rest of it. And even when we got to Antarctica, when we dropped the pick in Antarctica, we'd open the hatch and keep the inside of the boat really cold, below 0. And so everything would freeze up, and then you'd live on the boat, but you're warm because you've got your clothing, and you don't get that condensation, that continual freezing, melting. Long story, but everyone to their own. Jen Reynolds was asking, are we using modern anti-foulings rather than what was available 50 years ago? Very definitely we're using modern stuff, because it's a lot less environmentally hazardous. The original stuff had TBT in it, and toxins, which were really bad for the environment. It affected the marine growths and so on in a bad way. It was basically pollution. The current ones are using a lot more friendly chemicals, you might say. That's the easy explanation. So the modern anti-foulings are better for the environment, so very much using modern stuff. Dennis Bibby, do they carry more than one anchor? Under the notice of race, they have to carry one 45-pound anchor with a chain and rope, but we recommend they have more than one. Some have done that, some are just taking one. Timothy Warenza, why no sheet to tiller? Now this refers to the self-steering gear. When the wind vanes are breaking, as you know, there's a couple of brands there that they've had problems with. Why don't they just do a sheet to tiller situation? Now, I'm not going to try and explain sheet to tiller other than saying a simple explanation that you set the boat up and put the pressure at the front with the head sail, or pressure at the back with the main sail. You can sheet one in or ease the other one out to balance the boat. And you can also then, if you've got a tiller, put some shock cord on the tiller to hold it in a position. And then instead of the sheet actually running to the winch, you can actually run it to the tiller, or you can run it to the winch, and you can have like a lazy line to the tiller. And when the pressure increases and decreases on the sail, it'll pull or release the tiller, which helps steer the boat. So if you're really into this subject, again, just Google sheet to tiller self-steering, and you'll see all sorts of things popped up. There's some fantastic videos on YouTube about sheep to tiller, which will explain all the technicalities. Why they're not using it, I've spoken about to them, for a year ago and past times, saying, no, it's some good reads, it might come in handy. It may come in handy for some, but I don't think anyone's done it at the moment, the ones that have had the big issues. Certainly if you've got a catch rig in the Gold Globe race, you're a lot better off because you can balance that whole thing with the boat and get it a bit better. But the waves knock you around. It's a challenging subject, but too much to answer here in a little bit, so try Googling that, and we'll see what happens. Dennis Bibby. Oh, no, we've got that. Timothy Sheettiller. Dave Morgan. Solo status if someone rescues someone. Now, there's not only our boats down there at the moment in the GGR, but there's a whole other event called the Long Route, which is another group of private solo sailing adventurers that are going around the world as we speak. There's a couple ahead of our fleet, and there's a lot behind our fleet. There's probably going to be, they had a lot going, but I think there's probably going to be maybe 15 or so that are going to go around. So if anyone at sea gets into trouble, a yacht, like in our fleet, if one of our entrants is in trouble, we would get any ship or any other entrant that's closest to get to them as quick as possible. Let's say that boat is abandoned and the skipper goes from that boat onto, say, Jean-Luc's boat. What happens? Okay, it means that Jean-Luc's solo, non-stop, unassisted around the world record is broken, right? Because he's not solo unassisted anymore. But as far as the GGR is concerned, the first thing that would happen is he would be given a generous time compensation for all the time that he's lost off the course. And secondly, the person that comes onto the boat, they can assist with domestic duties only. That's like cooking and cleaning the boat. They're not allowed to assist with sailing the boat. Jean-Luc has to do that by himself. And then for safety reasons, we would get that person off the boat in the easiest way. And that might be by transferring him again to another ship, or Jean-Luc might have had to sail to Cape Town to offload him and then start sailing again. We would do all the calculations and come up with a generous compensation of days to put him back to where we think he should be. It's a tricky thing. The reason I say generous, because you don't want any skipper thinking, oh, I'm not going to go and rescue that guy because I'm going to get a big time penalty. That wouldn't happen anyway. It's humanity. It is the law of the sea. All mariners help everyone else, and it's just a fact of life. Anyone would go and help any other skipper, and so we do the best we can to keep them in the event and keep them competitive and so on. So, but there is that general rule. They can't sail the boat. Anyone that's picked up, and they can help with domestic duties only. So, and that would happen if a long router got into trouble, and one of the rescue coordination centres said, hey, look, your yacht's just there. Can you tell him to go over there and help him? It wouldn't be a problem. They would be there in a flash, because you never know who's going to need you one day. Okay, so how do they, from Dem Edu again, how do they climb the mast? Now, some entrants have got steps on the mast, different types of steps, just an angle piece they put their feet in. Some had folding steps that could fold out and then fold back up again, so you can actually climb it like a ladder. That's what I prefer. It puts a bit of weight on the mast, but it's very convenient, and it's easy to go up and down when you are looking at halyard issues or chafe and so on. Some of them got like a climbing system, so they wear a harness that clips in. You may have seen mountain climbers climbing up ropes. They're like one-way jammers. They're called Jumars, and they have a little handle, and you can slide it up. It's connected to your seat, so you slide it up. The other Jumar, this one here, sliding under the rope, has loops for your feet. So you then put your foot in it and you heave yourself up, and you're standing in the loops in your feet. You slide that one up because that's got the other loop in it, right, for your other foot, and then you climb up, and then you have to climb down again. Now, there's issues with that because if the boat's flopping around, you're banging up against the mast. There's another one called the top climber, similar system. You have a chair, you have one climbing bit, the chair's connected to a one-way jammer here that's going up a rope, and then your other foot ones is above it. So again, it's up, down, up, down, up, down, up the mast. So you climb up and climb down a rope, and you're banging and sliding away. So it's never easy. That's why you hear everyone talking about we've got to wait until there's calm weather so they can get up and do it. But there's different ways of doing it, and they all have a plan. They wouldn't have left here without a plan to climb up the mast, because you never know when you're going to need to do it. Stephen Pelunga want to know when they're going to get to Hobart. I did some calculations last week, and I reckon it's a couple of months. So we could see them there middle of October. Previously I was saying the end of October, But now I'm thinking, wow, it could be there as early as middle of October, but we'll just have to wait and see. 60 days from now sounds about right, but too many variables to pick that. Mike Phillips, water restrictions. When we left here, no, there weren't any water restrictions. They could take as much water as they want. And why do we allow solar panels and hydro generators, water generators, when they didn't have it 50 years ago? Purely because electricity is safety. That's a safety consideration, so there's no restriction on that. And do we allow electronic logs, with a paddle wheel on it, so they don't have to stream the walker's log or towing log? No, you're not allowed to use electronic logs. It's got to be a towing log or not at all. Bearing in mind, and I've done this, I've lived with this for 4,000 miles across the Pacific in a little bounty boat, you can actually estimate your speed very well. Sailors get it, it's not as hard as you think. So as long as you regularly write up an average speed, you look over the side and say, oh, I'm doing about 5 knots. You write that down regularly every time you think of it. Oh, I'm doing 6 knots. Oh, I'm doing 4 knots. You add that up at the end of the day. It's incredibly accurate. It's very surprising. So all you sailors out there that go sailing with an electronic log, you should try that, and you'll be very surprised at how accurate you can actually get your daily run just from getting a feel. You know what the speed is over the side. So it's not such a big deal. Okay, so Steve and Eddie, Stephen's very impressed with Tommy's speed and the speed of Ari, and they say, is that normal? Is that real? Is the tracker working? Yes, it is. And in fact, Ari now is in a very good position. Look at the tracker. He's been hooting in the last few days. And both those boats are impressive boats. The OE32 is the smallest boat in the fleet lengthwise, but it's got a very long waterline for that overall length, and it's a big boat. Plus, he's a very good sailor. He's been there before. He's had big multi-hulls. He's been across the Atlantic. He did the Ostar. Robin was just telling me he did the Ostar with him in 1989 or something. He's a very good sailor. He loves his boat. He trusts his boat. He can drive it really hard. So you put all this together, a reasonably good boat, a very good sailor, who's out there having fun, very relaxed, can drive hard, and that's what you got. And Tommy's a bit the same. He's done a solo circumnavigation in a 50-footer. His boat is simple, strong, and quite a good sail area displacement ratio, and that hull is very slippery. So in the right conditions, when he's reaching and broad reaching, close reaching, it can get along, and that's basically what's happening. So yes, that's very real, and all the boats can move pretty well when they got the right sailing conditions, and they're both good sailors. So that's all very okay by me. David Sketchy, water problems when they get to the south. Oh, he was the one asking about salt water collecting the thing. And the other, there's a good one here from last one was Jarrett Lowe. How's the weather? What's my impression of the weather so far? And what do you reckon is going to happen down south? And do you think climate change has had a bearing on all that? Well, so far the weather's been pretty mild. They haven't really had any big blows. They've had some, a few of them had some big winds from behind, but there haven't been what I call a major storm. Okay, and that's pretty normal for the Atlantic. None of the boats here have hit their first big storm. It's happening very soon. You'll see some stuff that we'll all be looking at thinking, oh, wow. And it'll be serious, and that'll be a telling moment. Hopefully everyone gets through it okay, but it'll put the boats under pressure, it'll put the skippers under pressure and so on. Is it any different now with climate change than it was? I've got to say yes. The reason I am confident in saying that is because of all the stuff I do in Antarctica in the last 20 years, going back and forwards across the Southern Ocean, sometimes 4 times a season, 4 or 5 times a season in ships and yachts and stuff. We read about it, lecture about it, talk about it, and it's a well-known fact that all of the scientists, the boffins, are saying that the Southern Ocean is now a lot windier than it used to be 30 years ago. That's 30 years ago, not 50 years ago. So yes, what's the difference? It's a bit complicated, but you could just simplify that for here and now by saying that it is windier. And the higher winds are extending, the stronger winds are extending further up. And it's got lots of ramifications for ice and Antarctica and temperatures of the ocean and all these sorts of things. So there is no question in my mind that climate change is having a bearing on the Southern Ocean, and it is going to be tougher. And that's a very small change over a long period of time, which means it's a significant change in some ways. And that's possibly reflected in Jimmy Cornell's you know, pilot charts. And if you ever want to have, you know, I've gone through that before. I've still got it here. These things, you know, where you've got all your windroses here. This is a revised edition where it's incorporating the changes due to climate change, and I've compared a couple of them to some old ones that I had going back to the late 80s, and there is a difference. It's quite interesting. When you put the 80s ones, these were the American pilot charts that I had. I had an atlas of those. You compare them to Jimmy's, and there is a difference. Quite interesting. So things are changing. Anyway, that's probably enough for now. Thanks for that. If you want to do anything to help us, tell your mates, tell your friends, hey, go follow the GGR and share it everywhere you can, and the more people we get following on, the better it is for everyone. So, oh, I forgot to tell you, something different about today. I'm in a white shirt, so what's the shirt? This is actually Igor's Zaretsky shirt, Mr. Captain OK, right? And it's a funny thing. So first of all, a couple of things happened. One is that they're going to do summaries of Igor's phone calls now, so we start to get some information from Igor for everyone that's interested. And secondly, they're going to do the Esmeralda OK t-shirts, so they're doing the design, and the production will happen soon. We'll hear about it. So if you really do want a Esmeralda OK t-shirt, they're coming soon. So thanks for that. See you next time.